Good morning, everyone. So good to see you here again. How's it going, Vanessa?
Good.
Good. Good.
Good morning.
Morning. How you doing?
I am doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Very good. Very well on this beautiful Monday morning.
Yes,
Searching for meaning.
definitely.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Vanessa, I really like your +1.
I know. He had me distracted there for a minute. He was running around and ripped my, I'm having to charge my battery. He tore the thing out of the wall even. He was running so
Wow.
fast.
He doesn't look big enough to do that.
I know. He is a whirling dervish of energy.
Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? And hopefully we'll have more people join us. But I just wanted to share something that I'm dealing with and see if it's helpful for you guys and what you think, and if it's anything that you might be dealing with as well. And basically what I want to talk about is our spiritual practice in general, and how my part of me, the worst part of me, my ego, wants to convince me, is constantly trying to convince me that once I've done something, it's done and I don't have to do it again, or I don't have to keep doing it. That if I have forgiven someone, then that's that. And I'm good to go and keep moving forward. If I have practiced a particular spiritual truth or practice, that I've done it, I'm good, and there's no need to revisit it. If I have let go of something, then it's done and I have let go. When in fact, what I need to be doing is continually letting go, continually forgiving, continuously practicing these spiritual practices. And I've just seen a number of ways that I had convinced myself that I know something, and because I know it, that's that, instead of living it, instead of doing it. So what I need to be reminded of today is how important practice is. And I'm hoping that that'll be beneficial and helpful for you. I want to start with a quote by Martha Graham. I believe that we learn by practice, whether it means to learn to dance by practicing dancing, or to learn to live by practicing living. The principles are the same. In each, it is the performance of a dedicated, precise set of acts, physical or intellectual, from which comes shape of achievement, a sense of one's being, a satisfaction of spirit. One becomes, in some area, an athlete of God. Practice means to perform over and over again in the face of all the obstacles, some act of vision, of faith, of desire. Practice is a means of inviting the perfection that is desired. To me, practice is all. It's everything. It's so easy to say we believe certain things, but what are we doing? How are we living? How are we practicing the things we say we believe? Because I don't think I really believe them if I'm not practicing them. I mean, I think it's lazy and hollow and ridiculous to say I believe anything that I'm not actually living out, that I'm not putting into practice. And, you know, a few years back, Malcolm Gladwell made us all aware of, you know, the 10,000 hours, 10 years, 10,000 hours of a certain type of practice leads to proficiency. And he studied world-class performers. And what they had in common was they were working harder than anyone else. They were putting in the time, they were putting in the practice. But not only that, they were getting feedback. They were practicing a certain way, and they were getting feedback on that practice, and they could see improvement. I think we need feedback. I think we need accountability. I think we need close friends and loved ones, maybe a support group, maybe a church, maybe a some circle of people who will keep us accountable, a significant other, whoever it is. And I think we need more than just one person, a sponsor, whatever it happens to be, where we can share with them our practice and they can say, hey, I see that. Have you considered this? Or I like what you're doing. That's great. Keep it up, and share with you what they're doing. I think it all comes down to practice, and the 10,000 hours, the certain type of practice that leads to proficiency. He said the difference between amateurs and professionals is an amateur's so-called practice is fun and enjoyable, and they have a good time. And he said the professional is exhausted. They put in the practice, they're worn out. A lot of times they don't like practice, but they're achieving so much more because of the way in which they are approaching it. I believe we become what we practice. I believe we are what we practice. And so if we're practicing worry, if we're practicing stress, and I mean, think about how many people are, man, they are good at stress because of all the practice they put in. They are good at worry. They are good at fretting. They are good at fear. If you practice fear instead of faith, guess what? But if you practice faith instead of fear, guess what? We have become what we practice. And I think that's why this is so important. It's such an important reminder. Rochelle Goodrich said, do it again, play it again, sing it again, read it again, write it again, sketch it again, rehearse it again, run it again, try it again, because again is practice, and practice is improvement, and improvement only leads to perfection. I do not believe practice makes perfect, like the old adage says. I believe practice leads to maybe a little wabi-sabi, a less perfection, or a better type of imperfection, right? Denise, can I get an amen on that? But, but the practice is all. And I have been pursuing self-improvement, a spiritual life, a meaningful life for decades, since I was a teenager, in a very deliberate, serious way. I have degrees in this shit. I take it seriously. And yet recently I've seen all the ways in which I'm not practicing, or all the ways in which I convince myself that I have done it and I don't have to keep doing it. And I've realized how short I am coming up by thinking that, by believing that, by listening to that part of me that tells me that. Karen Armstrong, I think one of the greatest religious writers we have in modern times, she's one of my all-time favorites, says this: religion is not about accepting 20 impossible propositions before breakfast, but about doing things that change you. It is a moral aesthetic and ethical alchemy. If you behave in a certain way, you will be transformed. The myths and laws of religion are not true because they can conform to some metaphysical, scientific, or historical reality, but because they are life enhancing. They tell you how human nature functions. But you will not discover their truth unless you apply these myths and doctrines to your own life and put them into practice. I realize the words we say are important. And I realize beliefs have their place because of how they lead us to live. But the most important thing is what we're doing. And the most important thing that I need to be reminded of is it's not just I know something, I've done something, so I've got it. I've mastered it. There's no such thing. I need to continuously practice, put these things into practice, remind myself, hang something up on the wall. I've got reminders right here I'm looking at that I have typed out and put up there to remind me of what, this day. What's today? 125, 21. It's only one of these we get. There's only one. We don't know which breath will be our last. And what we practice today is what makes this day meaningful or not. And every one of us sitting here, I promise you this, if we were told this was our last day, we would live it differently. So why not live it as if it's our last day? Because it very well might be. And it comes down to what we do on an ongoing, continual basis. Would anybody like to share something, ask something, respond in some way, or take issue with anything I've said?
I will. I'm not going to take too much issue.
Come on, let's fight.
Them's fighting words. So I don't know if anyone can identify with this, but a lot of times I always have these priorities that I've identified as my priorities. And this is the most important thing. And I say it. But I'm so tired, for instance. So I'm not physically rested enough to do this priority. I need to take care of myself, and I need to, get the energy to practice exercising, spirituality, whatever it is. I'm just too tired. Well, I had this conversation with somebody at work this morning because I do have like kind of weird sleep things where I don't sleep enough. But and she was like, well, you can't be too tired to create your best life. You just can't be too tired to do it. And I was like, yeah, tough love. I need this today. So, and she's like, I'm all about self-care, but breathe while you work, breathe while you do, and don't be too tired to get where you want to be. You got yourself here, you got yourself exhausted. So how are you gonna fill that gap, and how are you gonna restore it while you're still moving forward, not waiting until you feel so great and you're having a 10 out of 10 day and today's the day I'm going to be awesome. She also said to me, which really resonated, that we're in the driver's seat, we got ourselves here, we need to be responsible for doing this. Accountability partners are amazing, but they're not going to do the work for you, right? It's going to be you. And she said that you being in the driver's seat, you're still going to have fear, self-doubt, and that terrible inner critic riding with you in that car. Throw them in the back seat. Throw them in the back seat, but they're still going to be there. So don't think you're getting rid of them. And she's like, that's going to be today. That's going to be when you meet your goal. They're still going to be riding with you throw them in the trunk if you have to. And I really, I don't know, that kind of resonated with me, that, you know, we're going to have obstacles, we're going to have setbacks, even if we're, you know, today's Monday, we're at this session, it's going to hop us all up and we're going to feel so great. How are we going to feel Friday afternoon? You know, I mean, probably great because it's Friday afternoon, but Thursday, how about Thursday morning? You know, are we going to be like, I don't care, I'm going to sleep in, I'm calling in. So there will be obstacles, we'll be falling off course, and we just got to get back in and throw those haters in the back seat or the trunk. So I'm gonna go with that metaphor for today. Anyway.
Nice. You know, the thing I would ask, based on what you said, because I've done the same thing, do the same thing, is what are we doing to exhaust ourselves? What are we doing to wear ourselves out? Because if we're not doing the meaningful things, if we're not putting into practice, if that's not what's wearing us out, and so we're actually too tired, too mentally spent, emotionally spent, physically spent to do what matters most, what were we doing? And you say, oh, well, it's my job, I have to do X, Y, and Z. It's, you know, what do we do first? What is our first priority? And that's how we know what matters to us. You know, we say certain things matter, but what we do is what really is what
Right.
matters to us. And if we can, you know, I know a lot of writers who have a day job and get up an hour, 2 hours early to get their words in before they go off to their day job. If we're doing things, activities, work that exhausts us, maybe we should be starting a little earlier to fit in the things that matter most.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, a very good reminder. And yes, we should also, when we're exhausted, we should still practice the things that, you know, we know are important. But I just think it's important to look at what's exhausting us, and are they the things that really matter?
Right.
It's so easy to, you know,
That's so
spend
true.
our precious time in things that don't matter as much, you know?
And, you know, we can remove things from our lives.
Mm.
We could add new habits, swap them out for something that is not useful, or
Absolutely.
easier said than done. But
Yes.
the more we say it, the more we do it, the more we hold each other accountable and meet every Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. Let's have meaningful every day, okay? Anyway, tiny habits too, I was thinking of. Yeah, but I'll stop.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you so much for this topic, Michael, and for the reminder. I have, through COVID, I've begun a spiritual practice in the morning and been very consistent about it. And you're right, you know, it is signifying what I believe is most important, the prayer and the meditation. And I feel more grounded doing that. But there are days that, not very many, but I might miss a day here or there. And I miss it, I guess is what I'm saying. I notice it. And so not only can other people be accountable, but I'm like, I missed that. So I want to continue to do that. And I was just going to say that I understand what you're saying about being too tired to live your best life, but I can be so relentless about everything is important, and I need to do everything, and I need to do it now or yesterday. And so sometimes I think living my best life is taking a nap.
Absolutely.
I just need a freaking nap. And then I'll feel good and refreshed and do all these practices that I really want to do. Sometimes my mind just needs a break or a rest. Yeah, so sometimes that can be living my best life. Thank you so much for the topic though, because where I spend my time and what I do is what really matters. And I just want to be cautious that remember I'm a human being and not a human doing. And that I just practice that. And I'm not going to be perfect, but I can be consistent and focus in on what matters to me most. Great reminders. Thanks so much, guys.
Yes.
That is such a good point. A human being
rather than a human doing.
Right.
I think I'm probably the oldest one in this group. And I have learned a couple things over my life. When I was younger, I ran around like a chicken, just doing everything, and everything was so important. And when people told me it was important, I adopted that. And then I read a book, you maybe have heard of it, called Eat That Frog. And it's about choosing the most onerous task that you must do and do that first. And after that task is done, the rest of the time is so freeing that you can actually think about what you should do and keep things in priorities. And that's what I try to do. I kind of have the tendency to obsess, and it doesn't really matter whether it's housework or quilting or shopping or whatever I have to do. I kind of obsess over it to make sure I get it done in the most perfect way possible. And I realized that the most important thing are the people in my life, and that I do not need to have a pristine home, or everything I do does not have to be A1 perfect, that it's okay that it's not perfect. And I think about the Amish people, how when they make something, they always put a little boo-boo in their craft. So it reminds them that they are not perfect, that there's only one perfect one. So I try not to obsess. And now if I want to sew, I allocate maybe a couple hours a week rather than 8 hours a day to get things done. And I find that I am much more flexible to meet people for lunch, to do an errand for my neighbor, to just be available to people, because really that's the most important thing to me, is the people in my life.
Right.
So reading that book and doing the most onerous task first that has to be done and no question about it, and then giving yourself a break to do the things that you really enjoy. And I think that has just helped me so much. And it's helped the people in my life tremendously too. So I'm not obsessing. But anyway, I really enjoyed this group. I'm just so glad you have it, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks so much for that wisdom you shared too. You know, based on what you just said, well, I think one of the reminders that I need to say is practicing the kind of practicing I'm talking about, practicing the kind of life I'm talking about, is not all work all the time. It is leaving space for life to unfold and us to participate and to be available. It is the practice of very careful, deep listening to others. It's the practice of empathy and compassion, of putting ourselves in the place of others and being with them in their times of need, but also in their times of joy, and experiencing that with them. It is incorporating naps and downtime. You know, I mean, we need time where our minds can just relax and rest, whether it's through meditation or sitting in a field or in our backyard or beside a friend's grave, or where whatever it is, that we're open to. You know, we're not looking at a screen. You know, we're not listening to something except what's inside of us. And so I hope that nothing that I've said may lead you to think I'm talking about this rigorous routine where, you know, we're constant self-improvement, constant working on ourselves, and that's what matters. That's only a small part of it. You know, we're talking about the practice of living a good life. And as far as we know, this is the only one we get. So we need to be very careful about it and make sure we're spending it the ways that are best. And like some of us really like having a clean, neat, organized, tidy home. That's great. And that leads to an uncluttered mind and helps us live the kind of life we want to. However, we will not on our deathbed say, God, I wish I'd have had a cleaner house. You know, why is there dust on that baseboard, you know, underneath the furnace that I never got to that. So, I mean, why didn't I spend more time with my loved ones? Why wasn't I there more? Why did I miss this or that, that event, that significant event? So the last thing I would like to say, we talked about this, I talked with some people about this yesterday, is there are times when we are in need. We have intensity of our spiritual practices, of our pursuits. Maybe we had to file bankruptcy, or we lost our job, or we went through a divorce, or we lost a loved one, or you could name any, there could be a global pandemic, or I know that's real far-fetched, but I mean, it could be anything like that. And so we are pursuing with a greater intensity. My concern is when it's not those times, what are we doing to maintain these practices? And that's why I think we should put into place processes, principles, to-do lists that incorporate these things we're talking about, where we say, this is what matters most. And if I'm being honest about that, then I'm going to incorporate these things into my life. I'm going to find a place for them. I'm going to find a place for guitar, or for books, friends, for my children, for naps, for downtime, for play, for fun, for wine, for sex, for prayer, for meaning, sussing out the meaning of life. If that's important to me, then it's going to be on my to-do list. It's going to be on my daily reminders of what matters most. And that's what I'm going to do. If we look at our free time and we look at our so-called disposable income, we'll see what really matters most to us. We'll see how we're spending our lives. And I think it's good to look at that and say, forget what I'm saying. What am I actually doing? That's what matters most. So I hope that's a good reminder for us today. And then we can take that and have a more meaningful life because of the practices that we put in place and the things that we do. Don't come to me and say, Lord, Lord, I say this or I say that. I believe this or I believe that. What is it that you do? Don't tell me who you are. Show me. Live it. And that's what I want to do every day. Live what matters most and live my best life possible. That includes all these things we've been talking about. And I wish that for you today. I hope you all have a great day, a great week, and I hope to see you back here next Monday. Thank you all. Love you all.
Thank you,
Bye.
Michael.
Thanks,
Thank
Michael.
you, everyone.